Vapor barriers keep our buildings dry, or do they? In this video, we're talking about how using a vapor barrier incorrectly can actually lead to more moisture problems, mold, and rot, when you need to use a vapor barrier, and some alternative strategies that you can use to keep your home dry and durable. Let's get into it. So why do we install vapor barriers? Typically, we install a vapor barrier to slow or stop the movement of vapor from diffusing in or out of a building assembly, usually because we're concerned that the vapor passing through the assembly could condense on a cold surface or raise relative humidity within the space, which could impact durability and support things like mold growth, and these are all valid concerns. We might also want to use a vapor barrier as a capillary break to prevent moisture from wicking into our building materials, as in the case of a slab on grade. Moisture moves from higher concentrations to lower concentrations and from warm to cold. That's the second law of thermodynamics. If, let's say, we poke a bunch of holes in a vapor barrier, it's still going to function effectively as a vapor barrier. However, it's not going to function as an air barrier. And air is what concentrates vapor, since air leaks can transport moisture at a rate that is orders of magnitude higher than diffusion. So if moisture ends up in the assembly, it can't get out, and we run into problems. Vapor barriers or vapor retarders fall under three primary categories. We have class 1 vapor retarders, which are less than 0.1 perms. Think standard polyethylene, SBS rubberized asphalt, PVC, foil-faced insulation, glass. And then we have our class 2 vapor retarders, which are between 0.1 perm to 1 perm in vapor permeance. And that's going to be our unfaced rigid insulation like XPS or EPS or thick polyiso. And then we have our class 3 vapor retarders, which are between 1 perm and 10 perms. These are materials like OSB, concrete, latex paint, and a lot of waterproofing products. Anything over 10 perms is going to be considered as vapor open or vapor permeable. However, there still are varying degrees of vapor permeance that impact how a building dries. And then we have vapor variable materials, which tend to have a lower dry cup permeance, but have a higher wet cup vapor permeance. And these are materials like smart vapor retarders, craft paper, traditional roofing felts, and plywood. And these allow for a lot more flexibility in the design of the assembly, because we can slow the flow of moisture into the assembly or out of the assembly, and that can be beneficial to prevent things like condensation. So here we have a detail of an above-grade framed wall assembly with a vapor barrier installed on the interior. Very common in cold climates, especially places like Canada. So why do we get mold in the wall cavity? Well, we have seasons. Remember, moisture moves from warm to cold and from higher concentrations to lower concentrations, and oftentimes they're moving in the same direction. During warmer months, vapor drive is predominantly from the outside inwards, while vapor drive is from the inside outwards during the cold months of the year. When vapor diffuses through the walls to the interior in those warmer months, it gets trapped, it increases relative humidity within the wall cavity, and then we get condensation on the backside of the vapor barrier, especially if the interior is air conditioned. That water that condensed is now absorbed by the framing materials, and it can even end up collecting at the sill plates, and we get mold and rot in our walls since it can't dry out. This is only worsened if the cavity is well insulated, because insulation slows the flow of heat, and we have a reduced drying potential. So we want to avoid plastic vapor barriers in our above grade walls. We don't want to install any vinyl wallpaper or foil-faced finish materials. So how can we prevent wintertime condensation if we can't use vapor barriers? Well, we can warm the condensing surface of the sheathing with rigid insulation to keep it closer to interior temperatures. Any vapor diffusing into the walls that comes into contact with the sheathing won't condense because the temperature of the sheathing is warmer than the dew point temperature. Granted that we do need to use the right ratio of exterior rigid insulation installed outboard. I just posted a video about the benefits of exterior rigid insulation and integrating rigid insulation, which you can go and watch right here. So what if you're being forced to install a vapor barrier, as in the case of many jurisdictions in Canada? Specify a smart vapor retarder instead of the standard polyethylene. Smart vapor retarders are vapor variable. They are low class 2 vapor retarders when relative humidity is lower, but increase in permeance substantially as relative humidity in the framed cavity increases, which means that if we get moisture in the cavity, it can actually dry out instead of being trapped. What about below-grade basement walls? We frequently see vapor barriers being installed in the wrong location in basements. This is what I call the diaper, where the vapor barrier has been installed on the interior side of the studs, trapping moisture that gets into the wall cavity, whether it's from water leaking inside from hydrostatic pressure, from interior air leakage, or from moisture wicking up through the concrete footings from the damp soils, and we get mold in the cavity. We can't dry through the basement walls to the exterior since the soils are pretty much always wet. We have to stop doing this. Instead, we want our moisture-sensitive framing components to be able to dry out to the interior. So instead of a plastic vapor barrier, we want to install either taped rigid foam insulation or closed-cell spray foam directly over the concrete foundation walls, which will not only serve as our vapor retarder, but will prevent air leakage and condensation from moisture-laden interior air. If we're building in an especially wet climate, it's a good idea to install a capillary break at the footing to prevent moisture from wicking up into the concrete foundation walls and being driven inside. And of course, all this should be combined with good drainage practices to keep water away from the basement walls. If we want to avoid foam products in our basement walls, we can also use a smart vapor retarder in combination with fibrous insulation materials to prevent condensation while allowing the walls to dry to the interior. Next, we have crawl spaces. We tend to locate the vapor barrier in a crawl space right over the soils or ground, which is actually a good thing since we get a lot of moisture evaporating out of the soils, and that moisture can end up on the inside of our home. However, if we're building a vented crawl space, we still get moisture that's being transported via airflow into the crawl space from the exterior environment, and that can condense on the underside of our floor framing, especially in more humid climates, so we actually need an additional airtight vapor barrier separating the floor framing from the crawl space. I found that taped foil-faced rigid insulation works best here, since it not only provides a vapor barrier and air control air, but it provides a nice thermal break as well, and it's lightweight. If you're building a conditioned crawl space, you don't actually need this additional vapor barrier since you're essentially building a mini basement. Now, let's talk about slabs. We need a vapor barrier underneath our concrete slab since concrete is porous and it's in contact with the ground. We can get a lot of moisture flowing through the slab in both the liquid and the vapor form if we don't have a vapor barrier here, as the vapor barrier also acts as a capillary break. We can't dry through the slab into the soils since the soils are always wetter than the interior conditions, so we really do need a strong vapor barrier underneath the slab. This is the perfect location for your standard polyethylene vapor barrier. Alright, finally we have roofs. Roofs are a little bit different compared to our other assemblies, and depending on how the roof is designed, we may need a vapor barrier or even a double vapor barrier to prevent moisture issues, as in the case of flat roof assemblies, or no vapor retarder at all. Roofs with vented attics, especially well-insulated attics in colder climates, need an airtight vapor retarder installed at the ceiling plane to slow vapor movement and prevent air leakage into the attic space. Warm air can hold more moisture than cold air. The incoming cold air in the attic space doesn't have the ability to pick up much moisture, and if the attic is well insulated, there's minimal heat loss from the building to warm up that cold air, so vapor pressure is lower and we can actually get condensation in our vented attics that support mold growth and rot. This is where I like to use a taped smart vapor retarder membrane at the ceiling plane, as it will provide a much needed air barrier at this location and slow the flow of vapor into the attic space while allowing moisture to dry back into the interior. This membrane also allows for superior air tightness around ceiling penetrations. If we're designing an unvented, conditioned roof assembly, we have a lot more options at our disposal and can either design the assembly with a vapor retarder or without a vapor retarder, depending on how well we warm the condensing surface of the sheathing. If we wanted a vapor-open, conditioned roof assembly with no vapor retarder at all in the assembly, we would want to install an airtight, self-adhered, vapor-permeable membrane, a vapor-permeable insulation above the roof deck, like mineral wool or wood fiber, to warm the condensing surface of the sheathing, a vapor-open insulation within the rafter cavities, and a back-ventilated roofing material installed over a vapor-permeable underlayment, so the roof assembly would look sort of like our wall assembly but tilted to an angle. This assembly also works with impermeable roofing underlayments, as long as the right ratio of rigid insulation is installed above the roof deck. We can also manage vapor in warmer climates with a vapor diffusion port, which allows us to vent moisture out the ridge without introducing outside air. If we can't install rigid insulation outboard of the sheathing, we need to control condensation from the interior, either with a tape smart vapor retarder membrane installed over the rafters, sealed rigid foam insulation, or with closed cell spray foam. While spray foam can work in some circumstances, it's not a silver bullet, and it has the potential to crack in cold climates, which can violate the integrity of the air barrier, and it can off-gas some nasty chemicals for an extended period of time. Check out this video that I made on why spray foam tends to crack in cold climates and how you can prevent it. For more comprehensive information on building envelope design, head over to asiri-designs.com, where we have over 150 free building science articles that cover a wide range of topics, from flat roof design to insulating and sealing old buildings to basements and more. For now, good luck with your projects. Cheers.